Welcome to the Big Idea podcast, where we focus on food. Today we've got a great conversation with another co-founder of a company that's doing amazing things in alternative protein. Today's company is called Opalia Foods, Opalia Foods. They're based in Canada, and the co-founder we're chatting with today is Jennifer Cote. She's doing just some really mind-blowing things in the alternative dairy space. So let's get into it. Let's have a conversation. I'd love to get your feedbacks or questions or comments through either the website or through YouTube or wherever you're hearing this podcast. Many thanks. Bye. Hello, Jennifer. Welcome to the Big Idea podcast where we focus on food. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm normally we can chit chat a bit and stuff, but people aren't here for that. So Jennifer Cote, tell us who you are. Tell us what you do.
Yes. So I'm Jennifer, and I'm the CEO and co-founder at Opalia, previously known as BetterMilk. We are based in Montreal, Canada, and we make whole milk using mammary cells. More specifically, we use the mammary cells of the cow to make regular dairy products. So what I mean by whole milk is that we are able to make all of the functional components of milk. That being said, proteins, milk fats, the sugars also produced, rather than only being able to produce simple one or two proteins, for instance. So that allows us to have the full functionality of dairy and to then include our milk in all kinds of dairy products in the food industry, like yogurt, cheese, ice cream, but also in lesser known industry like the cosmetics or even pharmaceutical products. So that is pretty much what we're doing. We're a B2B company, and we partner with companies to give them our milk so that they can do all sorts of good stuff with it.
So previously called BetterMilk.
Yes.
Now called Opalia. Could you spell that for me? Because BetterMilk I can probably figure out for myself. Opalia, I'm not sure I can. And I want, if anyone's sort of wanting to go check you guys out, hit us with the spelling of the company name and so on.
Yeah, let's do a little spelling bee. Opalia is Opalia. Really simple.
Opalia. And is it Opalia
Yes.
Foods or?
Yes, on socials it's opaliafoods.com or Opalia Foods on LinkedIn, Twitter, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
And so you left the BetterMilk brand behind because there were like 7 of them or something?
Exactly. Yeah, all things better all around the food ecosystem. So we wanted to differentiate with a whole new name, whole new brand, and we're really excited about it. We've been getting a lot of good feedback, and it's really like a whole new era of milk, of food, and of the company.
Fantastic. Before we get into the business specifically, Why Opalia? Is that like a middle name of somebody, or does it mean something in a particular language, or where did that come from?
Yeah, it actually comes from a festival in Roman antiquity that celebrated the goddess Opis, which was the goddess of abundance. So this festival was all about like thanking the gods for having a good harvest. It was usually at the end of fall before the winter. And this goddess Opis is also called Rhea in the Greek antiquity. And the Rhea is actually the goddess of milk and of fertility and of goodness and time. So we really wanted to capture like the whole essence of milk, abundance, and success also. And we just really like the way it flows. Opalia is very round, flowy, a bit like milk. And we also didn't want to have anything related to milk or dairy because we're so much more than milk. We want to be able to have fully functional products in all kinds of categories. So it was really less limiting in that sense.
Awesome. Now I'm going to come back to the what you do stuff, where you mentioned that you are using the mammary cells of cows
Yes.
to create milk.
Correct.
Take us, talk to us about that a little bit. Now, I'm not a scientist, so for my sake, keep it simple.
Yes. So what we actually do is take cells from the cow udder, the cells that normally make milk in the cow. And then these cells are brought back to our lab. They're immortalized, which means that they're going to live on forever and produce milk forever. And then these cells are grown into a bioreactor to have high numbers of these cells. And then we induce lactation using a hormone called prolactin, which is the hormone that is normally produced inside of the body in all mammals that secrete milk. So then lactation is induced in the bioreactor, and we have milk flowing out of the cells like it would in the cow. And then we can take this milk and then we purify it, making sure there's no abnormalities or cell inside. Then we can dry them and ship them into all different kinds of partners to be introduced in all of the dairy products that we know and love.
So that sounds nothing like how you would make milk with a traditional cow. You say, like you do with the cow. Nothing you described there sounded like, how you would make milk. So one question, in terms of the output, the milk itself, if I took your milk and I put it under a microscope, would it be identical, basically, to regular cow's milk? Would I be able to see any kind of difference, either dramatic or nuanced?
There is a slight difference, of course, because we don't have all of the interaction that are inside of the body normally, but all of the functional components, meaning all of the components of the milk that normally produce the melting of the cheese or the frothing inside of the milk, all of these components are present in the milk. So the proteins, the main casein and whey, which are the two main proteins in milk, and milk fats interact together to get that functionality, and that is fully present inside. So in terms of functional properties, they're all similar, but of course there are some tiny ingredients that are present in milk that don't really have an effect on products, so that are not really important to add, that we probably have in small quantities, but not dramatic quantities.
Okay, so in terms of all of the components that are needed for it to be a regular milk and do all the things we want it to do, they're all there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I kind of, and I've had this discussion with some other founders. I wonder about how you get there is as important as what you get at the end, because obviously how you get there is very different than putting a cow in a field or a cage, feeding them, and then simulating pregnancy, etc., to make them give milk, and then taking milk for them every day. I wonder, and that's seen as the sort of natural or normal way of doing things. I wonder whether the fact that you guys don't do any of those steps, but still end up at the end result, whether that makes it, I mean, some people are going to be like, oh, it sounds so different. I'm not sure I feel comfortable. So does it matter? Should it matter? Is this actually more humane than the traditional methods, as far as you're aware? Or is that not even something that you want to get into, and it's not really a question that should be part of the discussion?
I think it is a question that should be asked, because of course many people don't feel comfortable with this technology yet because they're not aware of it. And you keep saying that it's different from the process, which it is, and from the outside, but inside, the bioreactor that I mentioned earlier really mimics the inside of the cow udder in terms of temperature, in terms of pH, in terms of oxygen, and also in terms of structure. Meaning that inside of the cow, the way that the cells are kind of attached to the udder is in kind of a grape-like structure that are called alveoli. And these alveoli are replicated inside the bioreactor. So the inside structure of the cow udder is the same thing in the bioreactor than it is inside the cow. It's just the cow that is not there. So the outside of the cute animal is not there.
One's called a cow, one's called a bioreactor.
Yes.
That's kind of,
the name changes also.
it's kind of different, right? But to your point, the end result.
The end result is the same, and you don't implicate the animals, so you don't need to implicate the water and the feed. I mean, you need so much fields to produce the feed of these cows. Then you take all of that out of the equation, and they also, I mean, the cows don't fart anymore. They don't produce any methane, so we're clear from that also. And when you're using the bioreactor, so the process is different but similar, but the end product is the same.
So as you say, less land use. You're not feeding that cow for whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever the life of a regular domestic milk producing cow is. You're not using the trucks to move the grain around from a feed perspective. You're not taking up land to make the feed that feeds the cow. I see from a sustainability and global warming, climate change footprint perspective, I see the upside for sure. Do we know how much, or do you know rather what quantity of milk is produced across Canada or the US today? I'm trying to get a feel for size of market.
Yeah. I don't know the number of liters per year that are produced, but I do know that a cow can make approximately between 35 to 60 liters of milk per day. So if you multiply that to the number of cows that are in Canada or the US or even the world, that's a lot of milk being produced every day inside of rather small animal, kind of big, but rather small. So they're very efficient at what they do.
Very cool. Where are you guys at from a company perspective? So when did you start? Who started the company? How many people did you start off with, and how many people are you growing to? And let's also, if we can, talk a little bit about product. Where are you at in the product process?
Yeah. So it all started with me and my co-founder. We started in September of 2020, so a year and a half ago now. We started because we were frustrated by the current alternatives that are on the market, and I think many people are. They're doing a good job at sustainability, but unfortunately not yet a good job for taste and functionality. So we wanted to help people to have that taste and functionality in dairy products and not have them change their diet completely to get a more sustainable option. So that's when we started looking at the alternative protein industry and on what kind of technology could allow us to have that full functionality. And then we looked at the fermentation using microorganisms to produce proteins, and they're able to produce only 1 or 2 proteins at a time. So for us, we wanted to get that full milk, so we shifted towards using the mammary cell that I've been talking. So it started just me and my co-founder, the two of us, and then we hired scientists that are really good at growing these cells, at doing the cell growth and the medium optimization and all of that. So now we're 4 people in the team, and we've done the proof of concept. So making milk with mammary cell is check. We also have proven that we're able to make the proteins and fats inside of the milk. So kind of a proof of complexity, if you mean. That is also check. We've right now are working on increasing the milk production, because our goal is mainly to produce enough milk so that we can collaborate with companies that can then test functionality in all kinds of products in the food space to begin with. And that's where we're at today, really about increasing the capacity that our cells can produce and the volumes that we can produce per day. Still very small scale as of today, but hopefully with this upcoming raise, we'll be able to purchase a bigger bioreactor and have more kind of pre-scale volumes to get us towards the actual scaling of this technology, which is going to be a challenge in and of itself. Yeah.
Talking about something which is always very loud and flamboyant. Okay, so I'm going to...
I can't hear them, so maybe we can hear them.
Okay.
No.
All right, great. I just don't want people listening to a podcast be listening to my wife and a guy arguing in the other room. All right. Okay, so I'm going to ask you another question, and we'll go from the new question as the, and I'll just cut out all of this crap. I apologize.
No problem.
Stop recording. No, we're still recording. Make sure the other one's recording. Yes, fabulous. So, so in terms of scale, do you have particular goals over the next, let's say, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, from a volume capacity perspective? How are you sort of thinking about that? I know you mentioned that your head scientist is grappling with this one.
Yes, absolutely. So right now it's all about getting the right number of cells to grow, meaning that we need space for these cells to grow. And we need a bigger size bioreactor for that. So as many cells as possible can make as much milk as possible. In that sense, we want to be able to make a few samples in the upcoming year for companies. So we should be able to make in the liters volume, so that we can give samples to companies. And hopefully with that kind of production, we'll get a good sense of functionality, nutrition, and taste of our product. And with that, we'll be able to scale the production in order to be closer to go to market and do all kinds of testing for the regulatory side of things. So we're going to be pretty busy in the upcoming years in terms of scaling and of growing the company.
So that probably brings us to business model a little bit. You're sending samples to companies, you mentioned. How do they fit into the picture? What role are these companies having in the development of your company?
So in our business model, we partner with companies so that they can make different products. So they're crucial when getting to market because we are producers of milk and we make whole milk so that they can incorporate this milk in their products. So partnering with them to kind of have a wide variety of different product application is important because they can each test kind of the functional components that they want in their product. So let's say a cheese company buys our milk and then they do some testing around it to have that good melting cheese that also bakes in the oven. So they'll do all these kinds of tests for it. So they'll look at the casein protein more closely. And then an ice cream company is going to buy our milk and then they're going to do all kinds of experiments to see how it creams and how it freezes and the taste after it freezes. So they will be looking at the whey protein mostly. So all these kind of companies are going to give us information about how our product functions. And also we're going to be able to bring different products to market and then get feedback from customers about what products is the best and what kind of application works the best for milk. And then we'll go from there and probably take all of that in and build our own line of products eventually in a couple of years from market.
Got it. So I was talking to another company recently who managed to achieve from a technology perspective something that was bioidentical, so basically identical to the original. If your product is, and we've already discussed this, identical to milk, what are the advantages or benefits of that is relevant to these companies? So, for example, you talked about an ice cream company and you've talked about a cheese company. If you guys are basically making milk, and yes, it's another way of getting there, still at the end of the day, milk. What's the value proposition for them? Is it a cost reduction? Is it the fact that they can tell their consumers that it's made in a different way and more beneficial way from a climate perspective? I mean, so why are companies engaging? What's important to them about what you do?
The more important thing is, of course, that we don't use any animals and that our environmental footprint is lower than the traditional industry. And I think especially in the last years, people have been kind of having a growing awakening of climate change and how the food that we consume is impacting the environment. So for them, I think it's going to be a good marketing aspect to have that on kind of the labeling, saying that it's the same milk. They don't have to compromise on taste or texture, but it gives them an added value of being better for the environment, better for the animals. And also, you mentioned price. Our goal is really to be at price parity when we launch and gradually build towards a lower price. And we have all kinds of intellectual property around ways to reduce our costs. And that's kind of what is the competitive advantage of our company in this landscape of milk companies that also have products that are functional.
It's interesting when I think through how you do what you do versus a traditional dairy. I'm like, dairies have been optimized over so many decades and are at such a scale that they can produce milk at a very, arguably low price because they're doing it in such volume. But they still have to have the animal, look after the animal. They've got land use, vet fees, feed that needs to go into the animal, et cetera, that all adds to cost. So I was like, can these guys, as you're talking, I'm like, can these guys really get to cost parity this early on in the development cycle? I wonder. I'm not sure. I haven't done the math, but it sounds really it sounds feasible when I actually start to unpack the domestic dairy, business model as it currently stands. But even if it's 10% more expensive or 20% more expensive as an ingredient, if it has that lower footprint, then I think there are companies out there that are going to be prepared to source from you guys and then let their customers know that this is a far better, more sustainable approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you finding different parts of the market to be more open to sort of experimentation? So cheese versus milk versus ice cream, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, cheese is really in demand right now when it comes to alternative milk, because the current plant-based cheese options are not really doing all the functional things that we're used to with traditional cheeses. And current applications that are working on casein have had trouble producing it. And for us, casein is really easily produced from the cells because they've been engineered by nature to make this milk. So they're used to making these kinds of proteins. So we are seeing an interest from the cheese companies because they know that we're able to make casein, which is the main component of cheese and the main component they're interested in.
How did you find your co-founder?
My co-founder is actually my life partner. It wasn't really hard to find him. He was right there. But we share the same values when it comes to sustainability and animals. We both quit dairy a couple years ago. So for us, it's really personal, and developing this technology is really what we are interested in when we wake up in the morning, is dreaming about having that dairy. We miss cheese, the traditional cheese. So one day we'll wake up and have that cheese that we made from cells, no animals, and that will be like the best day. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay. And then the other team members?
The other team members, we are all PhDs in their respective fields. One we found, they're all from Canada, so we've hired them through posts that we published on different kind of websites, and they're all deeply passionate about the mission. Also, yes, it's all about pure interest. Working for this, changing the future of food, is really what keeps us going.
Fantastic. Starting a company, whether it's a world-changing company or any company, how's that experience been for you? What's sort of some of the lessons learned for getting started in a new company?
How much time do you have? I've learned so much in just 1.5 years that I can't wait for what I'll learn in the next 5 to 10 years and even more. I mean, as a young woman in this field, there's so much things that you have to learn to get good at it and like to be proficient and to also kind of succeed in this field. And for me, it was really, I took the widest deep into this market. I wasn't from this background at all. I read about it and just fell in love with it. And I actually think that I'm really lucky to have this job because I get to work on the future of food every day, and that's not something many people can say. And my friends and family thought I was crazy to start this, and they still do, I think. But it's been life-changing, and yeah, I really appreciate everyone who's helped me get to where I am today, and appreciate people who will get me to the end goal someday of making that milk.
So I wonder if there's one thing that either came as a surprise or you maybe should have been told before you started this thing. I'm sort of wondering about people who are listening to you who are like, I want to go do something that matters. I want to go do something like this. And, what's the one thing you'd tell them if they were about to set off on a similar journey?
I would say do it. I mean, I hesitated for so long doing this, and I just jumped right in. And it is really hard, and you have to keep at it. But just doing it without overthinking it is really, I think, the solution. Because once you do it, there's no going back. You'll just get carried on by the flow, and everything will happen, and you'll be really happy you took that jump.
Now, you mentioned that I think. Did you say four? Are you 4 PhDs, or is it how many PhDs are in the company right now?
2 PhD, 1 PhD candidate finishing his PhD.
Okay, so if you're not a PhD, if you're a regular, if you're not a superhuman, but you're actually a regular person,
Me.
me too. Should I go find a superhuman PhD to work with? Do I need that to start my company that's going to change the food system, or can I start it on my own and kind of pull the pieces together as I go?
I mean, me and my co-founder are not PhDs in biology, and we kind of found the people who got the technology of it together. I think when you have drive and you have passion for the mission and for what you do, it's really easy to get a hold of people who will share that passion and will help you build that company. So I think it's just a matter of getting the right people to build this with you, because it is a teamwork. I wouldn't be able to do it alone. And yeah, I think it's just starting it without a PhD is good. You can do it. And then building your team is crucial. So I do think that there is importance in having people with the right expertise following you along the way.
It's kind of, as you were speaking, I was thinking, there's probably a bunch of PhDs out there who have all of the smarts and some of the know-how to get a lot of these questions answered, a lot of these things done, but they don't start it. They don't have the courage. They don't have the necessary pieces to just get going. And then there are people who don't have those PhDs who have that courage and that tenacity in buckets. So, somebody needs to start these things. Somebody needs to get going and bring the pieces together. I often think of it as a sort of a jigsaw puzzle. And the funny thing is, the business you start out with in the beginning, when you start your company, is very rarely the business that you end up with, because as you evolve, talk to more customers, consumers, as you start thinking through the different applications of what you're doing to the market, some things change. You adapt, you evolve, and so you could write a business plan that says that BetterMilk is doing X on the first day, and 18 months later, Opalia Foods is doing something somewhat different than you envisioned on the first day.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of being human. I mean, we make mistakes, we change course along the way, but keeping that focus of what you envision the company to be is important to kind of help you following along the journey in the path. But yeah, I love change and I welcome it, and I think that it's great to have the chance to do that. Yeah.
So given that the first day that you envisioned may not be where you are today, and therefore anything you tell me now is probably not correct, where do you see where would you like to see Opalia Foods being in, let's say, 5 years time? If everything goes to plan, if things go well, 5 years time, where is Opalia Foods? What is it doing?
In the perfect world, Opalia would be on the market, selling their milk products all around the world, hopefully, and then being on the path to change the whole dairy industry. I think that we're at a point in time where we're kind of at a crossroads, either keep doing what we were doing before and lead to the end of our planet, or change swift course and then go towards sustainable alternatives that still keep you that still give you the taste and functionality that you're used to. And I think that's really where the future is, and what this whole industry is about, in the alternative protein sector, giving you all of kind of incredible products that you wouldn't have dreamed of a couple of years ago. Fish, steak, leather, I mean, milk, everything is being produced from organisms. And I think there is so much beauty in what's coming, and people are not prepared.
There is so much happening. We are really
Yes.
at the beginning of some major transformations. Do you see Opalia Foods being a sort of on a 2-liter carton in a Target somewhere that people buy on a daily, weekly basis for their cereal? Or do you see it being a product which is behind, or the sort of driver of major cheese brands and major ice cream companies, etc.? What's your sort of 5-year horizon in that regard? Is it a brand on the shelf, or is it a ingredient in multiple products, or all of the above?
That's a good question. I think my ideal answer would be all of the above, because yeah, we want to be able to have this product in as many hands as possible in all kinds of ways. And that's what we pride ourselves on, is really the functionality and flexibility of our product to be able to capture all these kinds of markets. So yeah, the best answer would be everywhere. But the most obvious answer is probably going to be with a lot of help from different partners. And then we'll see how we evolve. As we said earlier, what I say today is probably going to be different in a week from now, and 2 weeks from now, and then a couple of years from now. So I'm really excited to see what the future holds.
Perfect. Where, if anyone's listening, what kind of help does Opalia Foods need over the next 6-12 months? And obviously that could be anything. It could be people to join the team. It could be fundraising. It could be all sorts of different things.
All kinds of help is needed at the moment. We're still super small, so we need all the help we can get. Of course, the main help right now is on the technical side of things. We need more scientists, more brains to accelerate this research and to grow. So we're looking at partners who can help us scale our technology and get closer to market. But we also need help from regular people who can talk about Opalia and the good work we're doing, and try to excite people about what's coming in terms of future of dairy products, participating in all kinds of classes. I gave a university lecture a couple of weeks ago and got some students excited about the field. So yeah, anyone can help, and I welcome the help of anyone who wants to help.
Is there an ideal customer right now that would, for example, partner with you on taking your small samples of ingredients and determining how to work with you to manufacture something, in larger quantities, whether that's in terms of the production side or even the taking of the ingredient and using it within the product side, or which of those? Is there a kind of an ideal partner right now?
Ideal partners would be people in the dairy industry who've been working on this for years, who have knowledge about dairy science and who are aware of these kinds of products. Is really helpful for us at the moment. Either academic or corporates would be good partners. Yeah, anyone who's worked with dairy is really the kind of people we're targeting for technical and for commercialization.
Okay. What about on the fundraising side? Do you have all the money you can handle, and you're not interested in talking to anyone about funding, or will you be?
Quite the opposite. I think there will never be enough money for this technology to grow. Like I said earlier, we have so much things to figure out, so we need help financially also. So we're raising at the moment, and if anyone's interested, you can contact me and we can talk about how we're building the future of milk, and I'll be excited to have you join us on this journey.
Fantastic. Where will people reach out to you if they wanted to discuss either being one of the brains that help build this, or being a partner that helps scale it, or being an investor that can grow with you?
You can reach us at opaliafoods.com. We have a website, and we have a contact box on the website and an email so that you can reach us too. And we are also quite not available but public on LinkedIn, so you can message me on there too.
So if I go, I'm actually I've got LinkedIn in the background here. If I type Opalia, Opalia Foods on LinkedIn, Opalia Foods did not come up. Oh, damn it.
On LinkedIn, it's probably just Opalia. On a website, it's Opalia Foods.
Oh, okay. Actually, you did come up as a participant in a conference coming up soon, which is the Future Food Tech in San Francisco. So you're attending that. That would be a great place for people to meet you. And if I type in just Opalia, there we are. Opalia Biotechnology, Montreal, Quebec. And lots of followers. Look at that. Okay, so if anyone needs to get hold of you on LinkedIn, Opalia, Opalia, and apart from that, opaliafoods.com, etc. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time today. I'm sure there's hundreds more questions I'd like to ask, but maybe we'll leave those to the next time. All right, I'm going to press pause, and then thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right.
Thanks for coming along to the conversation today with Jennifer Cote from Opalia Foods. This is the Big Idea podcast where we focus on food. So again, my name is Andrew Ive. I'm the founder of Big Idea Ventures. We find, invest in, and support food innovators and innovators around the world to make the world a better place. So great conversation today. Really enjoyed it. Hope you did too. By all means, reach out to me via our website, bigideaventures.com, via YouTube, via LinkedIn, wherever you want, really. Just find us, reach out if you've got something that is relevant to us. All right, many thanks. Look forward to it. Bye-bye.